Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the first intermediate grade. Our textbook is Super Goal 2 and today we will cover what did you do last week, conversation and about you. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazen Harbi. So let's begin. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end of this lesson, you will be able to answer questions about a conversation and start a conversation about past activities. Before we do this, let's make quick revision on our last lesson. Last lesson, we had an interesting listening exercise where we have listened to a conversation between two friends and we need to answer the following questions. And what did we do last time is that in this listening is that we read the questions first and then after we listen for 3 times then we can answer or we could answer these questions in a short time. Not only this, but also we have listened to the pronunciation of the past tense endings of certain verbs. And we said that some verbs, yes, they may end with the ed as we can see here, but when we pronounce them, the pronunciation is different. For example, we have words that ends with ed, but we pronounce the end of these verbs with t, and also the t sound, and some of them ends with d sound and some of them ends with ed sound. For example, liked, worked, watched. And also with the other sound, which is verbs that ends with d, played, studied, cleaned. And with the other type of verbs that ends also with ed, but the pronunciation with ed sound, like for example wanted, needed, and visited. And we have illustrated this, and in this example we said that especially the last sound that ends with the ed, usually it divided into two syllables, and with this one that ends with the t sound divide with only one syllable. For example, here we pronounce it as this, wanted. But with this one, we pronounce it as one syllable and we said that worked, worked. So this is the difference of the pronunciation for the following or for these verbs. So now I would like you please to open your books on page 68. I would like you please to open your books on page 68. So when you open your books, I would like you to have a look at the pictures you can see in front of you. So have a look at the picture you can see and tell me what kind of food is in the picture. What kind of food is in the picture? Of course, you're going to see in that picture, you're going to see special food, maybe certain dishes. Okay, so by having a look at these dishes, what do you think? What kind of food are these dishes for? Very good. It is an Indian food. As we can see that an Indian food has its own specific dishes that we already or we know of. So what do you know about Indian food in general? So since we are looking at an Indian food, picture of Indian food, so what can we tell about an Indian food? So some of you say that it is tasty. Some of you may say that it is hot and also it is spicy. So maybe the common feature of an Indian food is that it is spicy. And what do you mean by the word spicy? So we have the word hot and we have the word spicy. When we say hot, it means that the temperature is hot. For example, this is a hot dish. It means the temperature of that dish is hot. But when we say spicy, like Indian food, spicy food, it means the taste. The taste is hot. The taste is spicy. It means it has a lot of peppers and a lot of hot sauces as well. So this is what do you mean by spicy. We're talking about here, we're talking about the taste, not the temperature. So here we're going to listen to a conversation between Sam and his friend Amr. And what we need to do is that we are going to listen to this conversation. After we listen to this conversation, we will have a couple of questions to answer about them. So, before we listen, just have a quick look at this conversation between Sam and Amr. And when you do finish, we will start listening to the conversation between these two friends. So, now let's begin listening to the conversation between Sam and his friend Amr.
What did you do last week?
Nothing special. How about you?
I went out with a new friend from work, Dave Robbins.
Really? What's he like?
He's very interesting but very demanding.
Where did you go?
Well, I wanted to impress him, so I took him to an expensive Indian restaurant.
Was the food good?
It was great. The problem was he didn't like the spicy food.
Didn't you know?
No, he said he ate all kinds of foods. But at the Indian restaurant, he only had the rice.
Very well. Now we have listened to the conversation between Sam and Amr for the first time. Now we're going to listen for the second time for this conversation, and then we are going to explain some of the terms that were mentioned or that we have listened to in this conversation.
What did you do last week?
Nothing special. How about you?
I went out with a new friend from work, Dave Robbins.
Really? What's he like?
He's very interesting but very demanding.
Where did you go?
Well, I wanted to impress him, so I took him to an expensive Indian restaurant.
Was the food good?
It was great. The problem was he didn't like the spicy food.
Didn't you know?
No, he said he ate all kinds of foods. But at the Indian restaurant, he only had the rice.
Very well. Now, this conversation started with the question of our unit, which is, what did you do last week? So Sam is asking his friend Amr about the activities that he did last week. So Amr said that nothing special, nothing that I don't usually do. And then he referred the question to his friend Sam. How about you? So Sam said, I went out with a new friend from work. His name is Dave Robbins. And what's he like? We have learned that when you ask about this question about someone, what's he like? It means his personalities, his qualities. Is he friendly? Is he funny? So here we're talking about the personality, about a quality. So Sam said he's very interesting, but also at the same time he is very demanding. It means that he's not easygoing, that he has certain demands, certain requests that he needs all the time. So this is why he said he is very demanding. He is very demanding. He is not easy going. So Amr asked his friend again, where did you go? So he said that I want to impress him. When you want to impress someone, it means that to make him feel happy, to make him see that you are capable of doing a lot of things. So this is what we mean by impress someone. Impress someone, it means to make him satisfied, to make him amused by the things that you do. So he said that I took him to an expensive Indian restaurant. So not any regular Indian restaurant, an expensive one. So he said that, what about the food? Was the food good? He said the food it was great, but the problem that he didn't like the spicy food. You have, or we have learned last time when we usually use the subject pronoun and how can we refer each subject pronoun. So here, when Sam said he didn't like the spicy food, who exactly does he mean when he said he? He didn't like the spicy food. Very good. He mean Dave Robbins, his friend. He means Dave Robbins, his friend from work. So he said he didn't like the spicy food. He didn't like the food that taste or the taste of that food, which is very spicy, very hot. So didn't you know, Amr said? He said, no, I didn't know that he doesn't like spicy food. And he ate, because he said he ate all kinds of food, but at that specific Indian restaurant, he only, and that is the only thing he had, he said he only had the rice. So because the food was spicy, because he didn't like most of it, so he only had the rice. So this is the summary of this conversation between Sam and Amr. So let me ask you this. From the context of this conversation, when we listen to it, let me ask you this. Is Dave Robbins an old friend of Sam's? So according to the conversation, according to when Sam and Amr talk about what happened to the Indian restaurant and what are the things that he has done in this in that week. So do you think that he is an old friend? Very good. Yes, the answer is no. He is a new friend. So as Sam said, that he is a new friend that he know from work. So now let us move on to the about the conversation. About the conversation, as usual, these are a group of questions that about that specific conversation we have just listened to. And what we need to do here is that we're going to read each question and then and we will look for the answer of each question. So let's read the questions first. The first one is, who did Sam go out with? Who did Sam go out with? And the second question, what was he like? What was he like? And the third question is, where did Sam take Dave? Where did Sam take Dave? So let's start with the first one. The first question started with who? Who did Sam go out with? And usually, as we know, that when we ask who, it means that we are looking for a person. We are looking for a name. Who did Sam go out with? So do you remember the person that Sam did go out with? Very good. Yes, the person is that he went out with a new friend. His name is Dave Robbins. His name is Dave Robbins. Question number 2. What was he like? What was he like? And we have explained that what do you mean by this question? When you ask about someone, what is he like? So what was Dave Robbins, Sam's new friend, what was he like? Very good. He was interesting, but also at the same time, he is very demanding. And number 3, where did Sam take Dave? So according to the conversation we have listened to, there is a specific place that Sam took Dave to. Do you remember what that place is? Excellent. He took him to an Indian restaurant. He took him to an Indian restaurant. Now, here we have the last 3 questions. The number 4 is, what was the food like? What was the food like? And number 5, did Dave like the food? And number 6, what did he eat? So number 4, what was the food like? So in question number 2, we have asked a similar question when we say, what is he like? A person. Now we're talking about the food. What was the food like? So let's talk about the food. So according to the conversation, they mentioned something specific about the food that they ate. Do you remember what that thing is? Very good. Yes, the food was great, but it was at the same time, it was spicy. The taste of that food is spicy. It is hot. And number 5, did Dave like the food? And as we have learned from our last grammar lesson, the questions started with, or the question that starts with did, they are a short question. It means the answer are only yes or no. So Did Dave like the food? Sam, new friend, did he like the food? Very good. No, he didn't. He didn't like the food, and because Sam didn't know before that uh, he doesn't like spicy food. So what did he eat? What did Dave eat? So he didn't like the spicy food, so of course he ended up eating something. Do you remember what that thing is? Very good. He ends up, he only ate rice. He ends up eating only rice. So these are the questions of, the answers of the, about the conversation questions. Now, it is your turn. I would like you to do the following. Ask your classmates about their activities last week. So what I would like you to do is maybe you choose a family member or a friend of yours or maybe a classmate and ask him about the activities that they did last week. And you can ask or start your question by the title of our unit, which is what did you do last week? So just pick anyone and ask him this question. What did you do last week? And then he can tell the kind of activities that he did last week. And also you can change the form of question. You can ask him a short question, a yes or no question, like this one. Did you get up late on Saturday? You can ask him, did you play any kind of games last week? Or did you, for example, did any or do any of your homeworks last week? So there are a lot of questions that you may ask to your friend. So you will see that when he answer, you can ask him another question and so on, and you'll see maybe you'll end up making a similar conversation to the conversation we had between Sam and Amr. So the last part of our lesson today, which is about you. These are questions that are specific for you. So, but here we'll make it more interesting, these questions. So, let me ask you first, how good is your memory? Do you remember what you did recently? So imagine that if you are in Amr's place and someone asks you about the things that you did last week or about the past activities. So how good is your memory? Do you remember? Do you remember what you did recently? If I ask you, for example, what did you have for lunch today, or what did the teacher ask you to do today, or what or where did you reach at your favorite subject? So a lot of questions I can ask you about today. So do you think that you can remember, you can recall these things and answer them properly? So here I'm going to ask you further questions and you will answer me and you will test your memory yourself. So, for example, number one, did you drink water with your dinner last night? This is the first question. Did you drink water with your dinner last night? So the answer depends on you. So just try to remember while I ask. The second question, what did you eat for breakfast yesterday? What did you eat for breakfast yesterday? Try to close your eyes and remember, what did you eat yesterday? Number three, who was the last person you talked to on the phone? So on your phone, who is the last person you talked to? This is also a good practice for your memory if you remember what you did recently. And also number four, what was the last email you received? What was the last email you received? Or what was the last email you even sent? And also, when did you write an email to a friend? And who did you write to last night or last time? So about the email. So did you remember what is the last email that you received? Or the last person you have sent an email to? And also the final question is, when was the last time you visited the relatives? When was the last time you visited relatives? Do you remember when was the last time? So these are a very important questions. These are questions about the things that you did in the past. And what I need you to do here is that to try to remember. Try to remember whether you did all of these things or not. So remember whether you drink water or not, and what type or what kinds of food or of breakfast you ate yesterday, and who is the person you talk on the phone, and what was the last email you received, and when. Here we're talking about time. When did you write an email, and who is the person you write that email to, and also when was the last time you visited relatives. So all of these questions, if you answer them quickly, then it is a good practice for your memory, especially if you remember all of them. And to make it more interesting for you, you can have a similar table to this. You can write a similar or draw a similar table, and you can invite maybe a family member or a classmate or a friend of yours and ask him the same questions. So he will ask you this question, and then when you finish, you can ask him also these questions. And if you do remember, or if you do answer one of these questions, let's say, for example, you answer question number one. You answer question number one, then here you can put a tick mark on that, on number one. And if you didn't remember or you couldn't remember or answer question number two, that's fine. Move on to the other question, number three. The last person you have talked on the phone. So here, if you remember that person and you tell it to your partner, then here you can put the tick mark. So this is how can you make this exercise more interesting. So when you also, when you take these questions from your partner, and then it is your time, or it is your turn to ask him. So you can ask him the same questions, and whenever the question that he answers properly, then here you will put the tick mark on the question he could answer. So this is how can you make these questions more interesting. This is how can you answer them properly. So try it. You will see it is a lot of fun for you and also for your partner. So now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.